You know, you spend your entire life basically assuming progress looks like a spreadsheet.
Oh, totally. We're completely conditioned to believe that.
Right. Like navigating a career or even navigating your own morality is just this exercise in architecture.
You just follow the blueprint.
Exactly. You put in the hours, you hit the quarterly quotas, and the corporate system points to like a promotion or a bonus and says, there is your value, objectively measured.
Which, I mean, provides this profound sense of comfort for people.
Yeah, it really does.
Because people crave visibility. They crave categorization.
Yeah.
A hyper-systematized environment, it offers the shield against the chaos of human existence.
It's safe.
Exactly. If your worth is reduced to, say, a potency multiplier or some compliance score, you never have to ask yourself the terrifying, messy questions.
Like whether what you're doing is actually good.
Right. The system handles the ethics, and you just handle the output.
Well, that shield shatters completely when we step into the reality of Elara Vance. Welcome to today's deep dive, where we're exploring this beautifully complex, cozy fantasy manuscript called The Mending Mug by Autumn Wells.
It is such a fascinating read.
It really is. So we're going to be using direct excerpts from this fiction manuscript to look at the story of a disillusioned corporate alchemist. Her whole spreadsheet-driven life gets violently upended.
Violently is definitely the right word for it.
Yeah. So our mission for this deep dive is to untangle the central mystery of this narrative for you. We want to explain the mystery behind Elara Vance's sudden inheritance of this crumbling, magically bound tea shop.
We really need to understand who left it to her and why.
Yes, and why it physically traps her inside.
Yeah.
And like what this inheritance is truly meant to accomplish in a town that is literally dying. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Frame Elara's situation for the listener.
Yeah.
Imagine working for 11 years at this hyper-efficient, totally soulless corporation. Right, Firmadace. You get fired for basically having a conscience, and as your severance package, you receive a heavy cream envelope with a wax seal of an ivy-wrapped key.
The jarring contrast there is just, I mean, it sets the foundation for the entire mystery.
It's so abrupt.
Because the narrative begins in this environment that is completely scrubbed of all humanity. Elara operates within this cold, hyper-industrialized approach to magic.
Yeah, she's on the 73rd floor of the Farmageist Spire.
Which makes her sudden plunge into this ancient, organic, almost parasitic magic so disorienting for her.
Oh, absolutely, because Elara is a senior alchemist. She has a potency multiplier of 1.4x, which basically means she is exceptionally efficient at synthesizing complex magical compounds.
She is very, very good at her job.
She is, and she survived 11 years in this place where the air smells faintly of ozone and rosemary stabilizer.
Which is specifically engineered to keep the workers awake and compliant.
And completely detached. But now she's sitting across the desk from Director Ashworth, getting fired.
And Ashworth is just this masterclass in corporate detachment.
He really is. So chilling.
He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't get angry. He literally views Elara's sudden refusal to work as a mechanical failure on a production line.
Just a broken cog.
Exactly. He coldly reviews this Wexford account, which requested 40 units of a potion classified as memory wipe grade 3.
But Elara, even with her 1.4x multiplier, only brewed 4 of them.
Right. And the reasoning behind those numbers really establishes the core conflict of her character.
Because she brewed those 4 specific units because those 4 recipients had given documented ethical consent under the Concord Accords to have their memories altered.
They wanted the procedure.
Yeah, but the remaining 36 units were for people who didn't consent. And Elara tells Ashworth that forcing a grade 3 wipe on them isn't alchemy, it's assault with a mortar and pestle.
Notice her phrasing there. She's using the terminology of physical violence to describe a psychological violation.
It's so powerful.
Because in the Farmageist framework, memory is just another commodity, right? It's something to be managed or extracted or erased based purely on purchasing power.
Whoever has the gold makes the rule.
Exactly. By refusing the order, Elara is finally insisting on the humanity of the raw materials she's working with.
Which, I mean, I find her stance incredibly heroic in that moment, but the manuscript doesn't let her off the hook that easily.
No, it really doesn't.
She doesn't just get to walk out feeling all righteous. As she's being terminated, she has to confront the fact that she still brewed those first 4.
She was still part of the machine.
Yeah, and more devastatingly, she remembers this specific order from 3 years prior. She brewed a memory wipe for a woman named Marguerite Oswin.
And Marguerite's consent status was flagged in the system as contested.
Right, but Elara didn't stop the line. She processed the corporate waiver and she brewed the potion anyway. She compromised her morality one small waiver at a time for over a decade.
And that accumulated guilt is the critical context for the severance package she gets. The envelope. Yeah, Ashworth doesn't hand her a final paycheck. He slides that cream envelope across the desk. It contains the deed to a property in a town she has never even visited,
Yeah.
left by a grandfather she never knew, Cornelius Vance.
So she takes the envelope, and the moment she steps out of the Farmergeist spire, her corporate access is instantly revoked. The doors lock behind her. Her internal rank is frozen.
She's completely cut off.
But then, standing there on the street, this magical system, prompt-like, completely separate from the corporate UI, just blooms in her field of vision. It says, "New quest available, the alchemist's second chance."
Which is wild because it operates aesthetically like a role-playing game interface.
Yeah, like an RPG.
Right, which immediately recontextualizes her reality. But pay close attention to what this new system is measuring.
The alignment shift.
Exactly, the prompt flashes. Alignment shift detected. Compliance -10, integrity +18.
Oh, wow.
For 11 years, Farmergeist measured her compliance and her speed. It completely ignored her conscience.
And now, this sudden, intrusive magical interface is quantifying the exact moral metric the corporation just punished her for. See, I struggle with whether this system is actually any better than the production quotas, though.
How so?
Well, isn't she just trading one micromanaging boss for a magical one that gives her a scorecard out of 100? It feels deeply manipulative.
It's a fair point.
I mean, she leaves a modern tech giant where she's just a cog, and this new inheritance feels like a hyper-personalized indie video game that literally won't let her log out.
And her initial reaction aligns completely with your skepticism. She views it as just another set of quotas to hit, another cage, just with different bars.
Because it is, right?
Well, the idea that a system could track moral alignment implies there's some objective universal standard of good and bad.
Which has to be terrifying for someone who has lived in the gray area of corporate waivers for 11 years.
Exactly. But the nature of this system doesn't stay abstract for long.
Yeah.
Because she accepts the quest, and she boards a train to travel 3 counties north to claim this inheritance in Havenwood.
And the visual description of that train ride really forces you to understand the stakes. She is traveling through a landscape suffering from an ecological and magical collapse known as the Fade.
The Fade is just such a bleak concept.
Crops are rotting in the fields. Windmills are completely frozen, like they won't even move in heavy gales.
And Elara, using her very clinical corporate vocabulary, she diagnoses this as declining ambient magical saturation.
Right, like it's a spreadsheet error.
Basically, the Fade represents this thermodynamic breakdown of the world's magic. In the corporate centers, magic is synthesized and hoarded. But out in the provinces like Havenwood, the ambient magic, that natural force that sustains life and basic physics, is attenuating.
It's stretching so thin it's breaking, and the most haunting detail is the town sign when she finally arrives.
Oh, the sign is such a great detail.
It's supposed to read Havenwood 14MI, but the letters are just gone. It reads HAEN-DUO-D 14M.
And it's not like the paint chipped off.
Exactly. The letters have ceased to exist. The magical fabric is so weak that the physical reality of human language on a board is failing to hold its form.
What's fascinating here is that it indicates a crisis of permanence. Havenwood is a town of 340 people, and it is actively dissolving.
It's literally fading away.
And this is the environment where her grandfather's property sits. The deed calls it the Alchemist's Rest, but the sign over the door says the Mending Mug.
Renamed by someone along the way. So Elara walks up to it, and her approach is aggressively corporate.
She is not charmed by it at all.
Not even a little. She doesn't look at the charm. She immediately calculates the structural integrity. She plans to slap some paint on it and sell it to the highest bidder before the roof caves in.
She wants a swift exit strategy.
Yeah, but that corporate detachment shatters the second she walks in and discovers the brewing apparatus behind the counter.
Because it is nothing like the industrial vats at Farmergeist.
The manuscript goes out of its way to describe this massive, intricate lattice of copper piping and dark, oiled wood. The valves are shaped like actual leaves.
It's this beautiful, organic synthesis of botany and metallurgy.
And it's alive. When she touches this primer valve shaped like a fern, the whole thing wakes up. Water hisses through dry copper pipes.
The sealed apothecary jars start glowing.
Yeah. The shop recognizes her. But Elara makes the rational, self-perceiving choice. She packs her bag, walks to the front door, and grabs the iron handle to leave.
But the iron handle refuses to turn.
It locks, with a finality that completely defies basic physics. And the system text blooms in her vision again. System notice. The mug serves until the village is whole.
She realizes the deed came with a binding.
A literal trap. She screams at the system. She's like, I didn't consent to being locked inside it like some kind of indentured barista.
Which her outrage is completely justified.
Yeah, she just got fired for refusing to violate consent, and now her dead grandfather has violated hers.
But the system's response is so brutal, it says. The binding does not require your cooperation, only your presence.
Just chillin'.
It points out that she spent over a decade in a cage of her own making at Farmageist. It suggests her old job was just as much of a prison, she simply hadn't noticed the lock.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, though. If you inherit a house with a ghost, you can run away.
Sure.
But if the house is the jailer, is this a gift or a curse? It's like a magical non-compete clause. But instead of stopping you from working, it forces you to work until a highly subjective metric, the village is whole, is met.
And how do you even calculate when a dying town is whole?
You can't put that on a spreadsheet.
Exactly. Which is why Elara is so terrified. Trapped inside with no escape, her alchemical instincts take over. She needs to do something with her hands, so she uses the copper apparatus to brew tea.
And this reveals the true, hidden mechanics of her inheritance. The shadows.
Right. She pulls ingredients from the glowing jars. Silvered lavender, honeyed chamomile, and cinnamon bark.
She pours the boiling water into a cup, and the steam rises. But it doesn't dissipate. It thickens and folds in on itself until it forms a three-dimensional silhouette in the center of the room.
Her own shadow self.
A faceless figure, but carrying her exact posture. The tightly wound, defensive shoulders of an alchemist braced for an audit.
It's the physical manifestation of her suppressed guilt over Marguerite Oswin, rendered in steam.
But it doesn't attack her. It just stands there projecting this immense sadness. And before she can process it, the bell rings. Tobin, the village wardmaker, slips in.
And Tobin is just vibrating with anxiety.
Elara serves him the exact same blend of tea, but when he drinks it, the steam forms his shadow. A hunched, trembling figure wringing his hands and apologizing to the floorboards.
The tea bypassed his conscious defenses. It manifested his crippling internal anxiety.
So what does this all mean for Elara? She's basically inherited a magical therapy practice without a license, right?
That is a brilliant way to look at it.
It's like a psychological x-ray. It doesn't fix the broken bone. It just forces the patient to finally look at the fracture they've been ignoring.
And the system confirms this. When Tobin's shadow appears, the prompt flashes. Empathy level, 1. Reputation, +5.
So it's tracking emotional labor, not chemical potency.
Exactly. Cornelius didn't just leave her real estate. He left her an inheritance of mandatory relational work.
And the burden of that work is obvious the next morning when Kale, the grumpy village baker, bursts in.
Hale is such a great character.
He's huge, covered in flour, and furious. He calls her an exploitative city alchemist.
But he brought bread, because village tradition dictates he has to welcome a new business.
So he's yelling at her, holding this loaf of bread, but Elara sees something he can't. There is a weeping woman's shadow clinging to Kale's back.
His late wife, Sarah.
Her arms are wrapped around his neck in crushing grief, but he doesn't know it yet. Elara tries to defend herself, saying she refused to hurt people anymore, but Kale is totally consumed by this burden.
Which forces Elara to ask a fundamental question. Why build a psychological X-ray machine in a dying town? To understand why, she forces her way into the sealed basement.
And she finds the core secret. Under a loose floorboard, there's a hidden journal written by Mira, the second keeper of the mug, who ran it for 19 years.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Mira's journal is the key. Mira writes, "The shadows are not enemies. They are the parts of ourselves we refuse to face."
Which redefines the whole mystery. Mira says the tea is largely a placebo. The actual magic is attention.
Yes.
Mira notes that in a huge city, no one has to notice if you're drowning. But in a dying village of 340 people, seeing everyone's pain every day means the only way to survive is learning to look away.
Healing, as Mira puts it, is just finally being seen by someone who isn't in a hurry to look away. This completely shatters Elara's corporate mindset.
And it reveals the truth about the binding, the physical lock on the door. It's not a cage. Cornelius built it as an anchor.
Because the real decay of the Fade was the loss of people's belief that anyone was paying attention to them.
And an anchor that leaves halfway through a storm isn't doing its job.
Right. Cornelius created a system to force a skilled but emotionally detached alchemist to practice noticing. The mug doesn't serve tea, it serves attention.
I mean, I get that, but I have to challenge this. Even if it's an anchor, is it ethical for a grandfather to force this burden onto a granddaughter who never asked for it?
It is a massive violation of autonomy, yes.
It's like inheriting a lighthouse in a perpetual hurricane. You didn't ask to be the keeper, but if you leave, the ships crash. It's a forced duty of care.
It is. But the narrative asks us to weigh that against the alternative.
Right.
She had total freedom at Pharmageist, and she used it to brew memory wipes for unconsenting victims.
That's fair.
The mug strips her of mobility, but it forces her to restore her humanity.
And Elara finally accepts her role as the anchor, but immediately, that anchor is tested by a threat from her past. Inspector Alistair Vane arrives from Pharmageist
He rolls into town in a black corporate coach.
with a tracking device. And the most terrifying part is his shadow. It's not human. It's a hollow, blue, glitching ledger shadow made of numbers and tally marks.
He is entirely consumed by the corporation.
He claims the brewing apparatus is a class of magical core belonging to the company. He gives Elara 7 days before he returns with enforcers to seize it.
And the system issues a major quest. Reach 75 reputation and master 3 new recipes in 7 days.
The irony here is wild. Elara spent 11 years trying to hit corporate quotas to avoid getting fired. Now she's scrambling to hit a magical reputation quota of 75 to avoid getting evicted. Is the system really that different?
The currency is fundamentally different. Pharmageist extracted value. The mug requires her to give value attention, healing, to generate reputation.
That makes sense.
The system unlocks recipes only when a specific communal need arises. Pharmageist relied on isolation and legal threats. The mug relies on radical empathy and community integration.
Which is exactly how the village responds. Gideon, the blacksmith, comes in. Elara brews fog cutter tea with sage, juniper, and mist water.
And he remembers his dead apprentice, Finn.
Gideon has this incredible line, the forge doesn't remember the smith remembers the forge. And then he goes and builds an iron gate to protect the shop.
Then Mayor Halden comes in.
She gets the mirror leaf infusion white tea, elderflower, salt. She meets the shadow of her 26-year-old hopeful self and realizes she doesn't have to carry the town alone.
And finally, Ren Ashford and Bettina Marrow.
We've had a 30-year feud over a broken levee. Kale, who is totally supporting Elara now, noting that bread's a coward's apology before they finally connect romantically, forces them into the shop together.
Elara brews the root of remembrance with chicory, hawthorn, and golden resin.
And they see the shadows of Willem and Ada, the people they lost in the flood, and they end their feud. The 75 reputation threshold is met.
Just in time for the 7th day, Inspector Vane returns with his provincial enforcement escort.
But Mayor Halden steps up and produces a permanent communal sanctuary deed ratified by a unanimous provincial council vote under Statute 41, Section 9.
This raises an important question about the legal mechanics of this world. This statute supersedes corporate contract law because of documented welfare outcomes.
Right, because Elara actually healed the town.
Exactly. And Vane's shadow violently glitches. He is completely defeated by community solidarity.
And in this amazing moment, Elara offers him a cup of tea with absolutely no conditions.
Which he refuses because he can't comprehend a gift without extraction.
So he retreats. And the fade visibly recedes around the village. Green shoots appear in the garden. The gray haze lifts. The magical ecosystem is directly tied to the emotional ecosystem.
What is the ultimate legacy of Cornelius Vance? He didn't just leave a building. He engineered the salvation of Havenwood by trapping the exact right person there until she learned how to care again.
Elara watches Kale and his daughter Ren in the shop, and she realizes home no longer requires qualification. But do you think Elara's shadow will ever fully disappear? Or is the point that you just learn to live with your ghosts?
I think it's the latter. True integration means accepting your past, not erasing it.
Yeah. I compare the final state of Elara's shadow to a scar. It doesn't vanish, but it stops hurting when you poke it. The inheritance taught her how to carry it.
Exactly.
Which perfectly summarizes our deep dive. We started with a fired corporate alchemist and a trapped inheritance, and discovered the binding wasn't a punishment. It was an anchor designed to force connection in a world suffering from a crisis of attention.
It really is a profound shift in perspective.
And it leaves you with a lingering thought. We spend so much of our lives trying to escape obligations, searching for total freedom, and unbinding ourselves from difficult places. But what if the exact thing that feels like it's trapping you, a difficult relationship, a struggling community, a demanding responsibility, is actually the anchor you need to keep from drifting away entirely? Think about the cages in your own life. Are any of them actually anchors?